one of those guys step up is they'll get a bit more wide receiver separation when they're playing the Auburn secondary and they're not playing the top guys in the Auburn secondary. But the Auburn secondary played pretty well against Tyler Wilson at the Kentucky game. Tyler Wilson, the Kentucky quarterback who got hurt last season, he's arguably not that good and threw some questionable passes. But the Auburn defense had a lot of third down stops against Kentucky, so Arkansas is definitely going to have a good third down efficiency rate to beat the Auburn Tigers just because of how good that defense has been on for third downs this year, especially against Kentucky. When you're playing like a top team like Alabama, Georgia, or possibly even Florida this year, it's hard to judge the team just because of how good those whole teams are from top to bottom. Those are like the three SEC teams that are like no other in this conference. They're on a whole different level. So when Auburn and Georgia play, it's hard to say that Auburn's not good because of these against Georgia, or Arkansas is not good because of this against Georgia, because of how good Georgia is. But one thing that's been horrible for the Auburn Tigers is they have had a horrible run defense this year, giving up 173.5 yards per game, and this is where Arkansas can capitalize. They struggled with the run game for most of the year because Boyd has not been getting things going when he was not injured. He got injured on Saturday's game, and the thing is for Boyd, he's got to get going, especially against not that good of a run defense in the Auburn Tigers. They gave up 150 yards to Georgia running back Zamir White, and I think Arkansas gave like 75 to him. So Boyd or Smith, whoever starts for the Razorbacks, definitely going to have to capitalize off that. They have some mid-tier defensive line, which should be okay for Arkansas to run the ball a little bit. Definitely going to see a little bit of Briles packages with the running backs this week, which should be very interesting to see. But linebacker KJ Britt is really good for them. I'm not sure if he's playing. I've been hearing a lot of rumors about his injury. But that brings me into my next segment, the injury report. I'm just going to state you the facts here. For the Arkansas Razorbacks, running back Rakeem Boyd, he had a boot on after Saturday's win. However, he's expected to practice this week. Wide receiver Treylon Burks, he had a brace on. He got an MRI, but he's expected to practice this week. Cornerback Monteric Brown got dinged up. Head coach Sam Pittman expects him to play. Defensive lineman Darian Gerald, he's a wait-and-see type of guy. He had an injury week 1. Defensive lineman Julius Coates, his injury was not specified, but he is expected to play. And linebacker Grant Morgan had an elbow brace on after Mississippi State game, but he's expected to be good to go as he came in later in the Mississippi State game. Now for the other side of the football, Auburn Tigers, wide receiver Seth Williams got banged up. They're hoping he's playing. Linebacker KJ Britt, he's banged up. They are hopeful he is playing, but I've heard a couple of rumors on Twitter that it may be more of a serious injury, so that's a situation to watch. Wide receiver Eli Stove, he has an undisclosed injury, hopeful to play. Running back Sean Shivers has an undisclosed injury, but they are hopeful to play. So Gus Malzahn basically said he is hopeful that these guys play. Sam Pittman basically says they're expected to practice. So not really a ton of information on injuries for this game, but that's how SEC football usually is. Coaches don't give a ton of information about the guys who are going to be injured and all that. Now in Vegas and the BPI, Vegas currently has Auburn at a -14 spread here Tuesday night. It opened at -18 on Sunday, and the spread has moved 4 points in 2 days. So I could see that spread almost moving to Auburn -12.5 or -13. That's why I specifically said it's Tuesday, and the spread is -14 because I can see that moving. Over-under at 46.5. I think that's pretty accurate. ESPN BPI gives Auburn a 89.1% chance to win. However, before the Week 2 games, Auburn had a 95% chance to win. It's something we saw this week and last week. After each team got a win, their ESPN BPI chance of winning went up a pretty good amount. Now, all-time, the record is not that good for Arkansas. 11-17-1 for the Razorbacks. It's not really a rivalry series, though, except for the fact that Chad Morris is the offensive coordinator for Auburn. One of the worst Arkansas coaches of all time. Arkansas fans do not like this guy at all. Auburn Tigers have won 4 straight, and the last time Arkansas won was the 4 overtime game in 2015, and that was a really exciting game to watch. Probably one of my favorite games I have ever watched the Razorbacks play, and it was really exciting. So, yeah, it's just a little bit of history about this series. But going into my prediction, I think the Hogs are going to win a close one. I think it's going to come down to the wire like last week. Arkansas and Auburn fans will be on the edge of their seats for the finish, but Arkansas comes out on top. I think the Arkansas defense plays really well against Bo Nix and Chad Morris. I think Barry Odom is going to prepare them for that game all week. And like I was talking about earlier, Barry Odom has played a Chad Morris offense and dominated them. I don't think it'll be as much of a domination as Auburn has a bit better players than the Arkansas offense a few years ago. But I think the defense plays pretty well against Bo Nix and Chad Morris. I also think we get a better look at the running game. I think if Boyd plays, we're going to tear up the Auburn run defense. But if Boyd does not play, I think Traylon Smith will have a pretty good game. And even if Boyd plays, like I was talking about, I'm not sure if he'll tear him up as much as he'll just wear him out or allow us to have multiple options on RPOs, which is something we've seen a little bit from Briles. Seth Williams, though, is going to have to be guarded very tight. If Auburn gets him going, it's going to be hard for the Razorbacks to win because of how talented he is. Definitely guys like Monteric Brown and Jerry Jacobs are going to have to guard Seth Williams really tight. And I think it's overall going to be a really good game. I think Arkansas is going to have to run the ball to win this game, but I think it's going to be a bit easier because Auburn's defensive line is not good as Mississippi State's and Georgia's, and I just want to win this game so bad. I can't even express on this podcast enough about how much I dislike Chad Morris and what he did to this Arkansas team. I can't put it into words. It's a big game for both teams. However, Arkansas looking to see if they are a real contender this year in the SEC West to be like a second, third, fourth place option, or if Mississippi State was just a fluke game, and then Auburn looking to turn their season around after the really horrible loss against Georgia, which upset a lot of Auburn fans. But my final score, 24-20, Arkansas comes out on top. Whoa pig, baby. Now, next episode should be out on Monday morning, covering the recap of this game. But that is all for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and as always, you can find all ways to listen and all social medias at allhogsports.com. And don't forget, as always, woo pig!
That's all for today's episode of All Hog Sports with Sam Stimson. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episode covering all Arkansas Razorback sports. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media too. On Twitter and Instagram at All Hog Sports Pod. Like on Facebook at All Hog Sports and Arkansas Razorbacks Podcast. And on YouTube at that same name. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Go Hogs!